Hello there, everyone. How you doing? Welcome to r/entitled people, where people are very entitled. You know the drill. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, watch the entire video through so the video does well, and let's get started, shall we? So to start with, I've actually got my own little entitled people story. So, as few of you may know, I'm a voice actor by trade. So, I was looking for casting calls. You know, what voice actors do. I came across one, put my demo reel down, and the guy contacted me to do a role. Now, after little bit, I saw some red flags, so I decided, well, I'll check his tweets. At worst, I'm wrong and won't have to do anything. At worst, I'll tell him I can't be part of the project in a professional manner. Turns out he's going around telling girls, your body, my choice, among other horrific things, to say the least. So I told him I cannot be affiliated with someone who says such horrific stuff. He said okay, and we left it at that. And then 5 minutes later, he's vague tweeting me like, I guess what I say will be held against me. Like, yeah, that's how consequences of actions work. You're free to say whatever you want, but you're not free to not have consequences. Actions have consequences, dude. And I have the freedom to work with who I want to. And I choose not to work with a self-entitled douchebag. Now, that my story's out of the way, let's get to the next one of the day, shall we? My entitled aunt robbed my great-grandma of a funeral. It's been nearly 9 months since everything went down, but I'm still pissed about it. So my great-aunt, EA for entitled aunt, has never been the most pleasant person to be around. She's cunning, headstrong, and just flat-out mean. That being said, she was a well-respected member of our family for several years, since she used to work at a successful law firm, well before I was even born. She was fairly well off, all things considered. Nice house, nice car, the works. Me and my family wouldn't see her often, but she was a decent person when we were around. That is, until late 2022. It was discovered that entitled aunt had been found guilty of professional misconduct in the law firm, and as a result she was disbarred. The life she had worked for came crumbling down on top of her, and she lost just about everything, so she decided to move in with my great-grandma, only a few blocks away from my house. Now, my great-grandma was a lovely woman. She was the type of person that would give her last penny to a homeless person. However, she was 95 at the time and her dementia was starting to worsen. So when entitled aunt moved in, my family just assumed she was there to be a caretaker for my great-grandma. And to an extent she was, albeit a not very good one. Entitled aunt's true colors started to show after she started remodeling my great-grandma's house. My family is a carpenter. He was asked to help with the remodeling. He begrudgingly accepted since he didn't have a job and needed money. We're by no means a poor family, but keeping the income steady isn't always easy. While helping with the house, my father witnessed entitled aunt mistreating my great-grandmother on a constant basis. Only verbal abuse from what I can recall, since she still fed and bathed her. Still, seeing this made my dad very angry. To make matters worse, the remodel was constantly stressing my great-grandma out, though entitled aunt could not be bothered to give half of a fuck. Towards the latter half of 2023, I tried my hardest to stay away from entitled aunt, only going around her if it meant visiting my great-grandma. We knew that she'd pass on eventually, but when it would happen was a guessing game. We thought the funeral was all planned out. My great-grandma told my mom on multiple occasions that when she did eventually pass away, she didn't want a big funeral, just family and friends, and she wanted to be buried next to her husband, my great-grandpa. Apparently, entitled aunt had different plans. Upon passing, she wanted to bury my great-grandmother straight away in a concrete box. No funeral, no visitation, no coffin, just shoved in a box and put in the ground. My family was livid, to say the least. It's also worth noting that my great grandma made the mistake of making EA the power of attorney, which in my home state trumps the deceased party's will, well before she passed. Essentially, entitled aunt had all the power, and my family could do nothing but try to bargain with her. And here's where the shitstorm begins. After several lengthy discussions, my grandma eventually convinced entitled aunt to at least bury my great grandma in a coffin instead of a concrete box. Unfortunately, she couldn't convince her to arrange a proper funeral. In late February earlier this year, my great grandmother passed away at the age of 96. My mom and I were lucky enough to say our final goodbyes to her shortly before she passed. I was apparently the last person to say goodbye to her, as she passed away 15 minutes after I left. Unfortunately, some of my other family members didn't get to say goodbye. My grandparents and entitled aunts agreed to do burial in early March around 11 a.m. That way we could all say our goodbyes and immediately get some lunch afterwards. Entitled aunts buried my great grandma an hour and a half early. My grandpa never got to say goodbye to his own mother because my entitled aunt claimed that the buriers wanted to get it out of the way, when in reality she just wanted to save money. My dad and grandpa didn't end up going to lunch afterwards, and honestly I don't blame them. Entitled aunt is basically dead to us now. I am angry. I'm almost 99% sure entitled aunts altered my great grandma's will while she was alive, so she'd be able to keep as much of her money as possible after she died. Unfortunately, there's no way to prove she actually did, and we can't make a case against her. To add a cherry on top of this heaping pile of honey horseshit, my mom paid one of the local funeral homes to publish cards to let everyone know about my great grandma's passing. She was fairly well known in the community, but a few days after passing the cards out to local businesses, entitled aunt went around collecting the cards because they go against grandma's will. I have no idea what she did with those cards, but I guess is that she threw them away. As I mentioned earlier, it's been nearly 9 months since this all went down, but I will forever carry a deep resentment towards entitled aunt for how she treated my great grandmother. Mistreating and manipulating an old woman with dementia is straight up evil, and I'm glad entitled aunt is no longer in my life. Holy freaking yikes! To be honest, I hope you've all got no contact permanently with her from now on, because frickin' jeez! That lady's not right in the head. On to the next story. My homophobic mom against LGBT group, and I refuse to help. So the thing is about my mom is that she's a very traditional Muslim woman. Last night, before her flight back home, we went to my friend's restaurant, which she is the owner of. My friend regularly hosts drag nights, one of which was last night. I mean, I also perform in drag sometimes, so I find this quite fun. Anyway, my mom was there, and she made comment after comment after comment after comment. One of those comments was heard clearly by one particular queen, who was in fact trans. She absolutely blew up on my mother, calling her a homophobe, saying she is what's wrong with today's society. My mom then defended her words, saying that all trans people should be lined up and beheaded for even thinking of switching their genders because that's what God made them be and they should accept it. This led to a verbal brawl between my mom and several other patrons. Calling my mom some words I can't say here. I just sat on the table as my mom was getting ripped apart. She turned to me asking for help, and I said to her, I warned you this was going to happen. This city and country is very open-minded, and I warned you that I will not come to your defense if you're caught saying insensitive things. You made this bed, now lie in it. The night ended pretty sour, and my mom wouldn't speak to me in the airport. She involved the other members of the family, and it was mixed to mainly my side. My mom just doesn't listen, and we warned her that one day she will piss off the wrong person, and it happened. The city I live in also has a high population of Muslims, but as far as I can tell, there is not really much bad blood. Muslims here just mind their business, adjusting and all that. So I cannot understand my mom's blatant homophobic remarks when I warned her several times that this was going to bite her in the butt someday. Your mother was enacted her freedom of speech. The Queens and Company also enacted their legal reaction to that freedom of speech. I believe it's called the Fuck Around and Find Out, as always. On to the next story. That time, my entitled mom tried to reserve my cat for her kid's birthday. So I have a very fluffy, very adorable cat named Moki. He's basically my little buddy, and he's got one of those Instagram accounts where I post his funny antics. So a lot of people in my neighborhood know about him, including this one mom I'll call EM, who has a 6-year-old daughter super into cats. No biggie, right? As if. One day, EM messages me on Instagram saying her daughter is absolutely obsessed with Mochi and asking if I could bring him to her daughter's birthday party the following weekend so the kids can play with him. I politely decline, explaining that Mochi doesn't do well in environments and would likely hide or freak out around loud kids. Entitled Mom's response, "Well, can you loan him to us for the day?" Yeah, she literally just wanted me to hand over my cat as if he was a library book or something. They promised they'd take good care of him and even offered to pay me $20 for the inconvenience. I politely refuse again, saying Mochi isn't up for loan, and I don't think it would be safe or comfortable for him. Entitled Mom immediately switches tactics, calling me selfish and accusing me of gatekeeping joy from our daughter. She rants about how it's just one day, and I owe it to the community because I flaunt Mochi's photos online. Now I'm getting irritated. I tell her that my cat isn't an accessory, and he's definitely not something I owe to the neighborhood. I assume that's the end of it until the day of the party. I'm in my apartment when I hear a loud knock at my door. It's Entitled Mom and her daughter with her girl holding a sparkly cat carrier. Entitled Mom smiles and said, "Oh, we came to pick up Mochi." She acts as if we had agreed on this and just expected me to hand him over on demand. Completely stunned, I tell her, "I never agreed to this. I'm not giving you my cat." Entitled Mom's smile drops instantly and she launches into this loud, dramatic rant about how I'm ruining my daughter's special day and that I shouldn't show off my cat if I don't want to share. Her daughter starts tearing up, and Entitled Mom gives me this accusing look, like I've just broken her kid's heart on purpose. Later, I found out from my mutual friend she spread a story around the neighborhood that I baited her daughter with Mochi only to withhold him out of spite. No one really believed her, but she still gives me that dirtiest look anytime I pass her. Mochi, completely oblivious and unbothered, living his best life as usual. We love to see a short, fuzzy king. Sounds like it's time for Mochi to use his Instagram account for the greater good. I would totally post an account of the events from Mochi's point of view, as though it's Mochi telling it. You know, the craziest shit happened to my human and me. Can you believe some lady just tried to borrow me for her daughter's birthday? Thankfully, my human is the bomb and told her no. I chilled out, curled up, and relieved my human had made the same decision. I'm eating some fancy feast in the kitchen, and there's a knock on our door. I hid under the coffee table. I was scared shitless by the smell of a human kitten. And that's when I heard this crazy lady trying to guilt my human into letting me get my fur pulled out by an entire pack of the little beasts. Thankfully, my human told the crazy lady the cake rocks. I'm still a little shaken up, but my human's given me unlimited lap privileges, so I'm gonna be alright. Watch out for crazy humans in the wild, they really do exist. Oh, that'd be wonderful if they did that. I would love to hear if that happened. On to the next story. My mother is coming to visit me, and I'm scared about how she'll behave. I, 29 female, am married to a Korean and living in South Korea. I've been here since 2019. Neither of my parents came to my wedding. My dad didn't want to quarantine because he's an American and won't let another country strip him of his rights. My mom My mom didn't want to come because the flight was too long. On the same month of my wedding, she alone drove 12 hours to Florida to see a witch doctor and go clubbing, by the way. My mom is Panamanian, who's lived in the US for a little over 20 years. Yet she doesn't speak English well because she hates the language. It's so ugly. And she doesn't need to learn it since her children can translate for her. Well, a few months ago, my mom told me that she really misses me and she wants to see me. She asked me to come back and visit her. I said I can't do that because it wouldn't be fair to my husband, that I go on vacation while he works and funds my vacation. My mom got upset and kept bringing it up for weeks. I jokingly suggested that if she really wanted to see me, she should fly out here. She said she doesn't want to go to China. A week after that conversation, she said she'll fly out to me. I was hesitant to believe her and sarcastically said, "Sure, come anytime, you're always welcome." Well, she followed through and got a ticket. It's a non refundable ticket, but she can reschedule it. Since buying the ticket, she's come up with so many demands. She's not even here yet, and I'm going crazy. Her first demand is that she must stay with my husband and I in our tiny 2-bedroom apartment. Our second room is more like a closet. She's afraid of getting sexually assaulted in a hotel room. She truly believes that Korea is a very unsafe country and that she'll get attacked if she's alone. She declared that she'll sleep on the bed with me and my husband can take the floor, since Chinese people like being on the floor anyway. I offered to stay with her in the hotel until she's comfortable. She blew up into a fit of rage, spewing random things about sexual assault, and that she will do what she wants. Her second demand is that we must immediately go to the nearest US base so she can go grocery shopping because she doesn't trust grocery US stores. She's afraid they'll trick her into buying dog meat or that they'll label dog meat as pork or beef. She'll only be eating home cooked meals and that she won't eat in a restaurant because she's seen too many TikToks about dirty Chinese restaurants. My husband had made it clear that the first week she is here, we will not be taking her to a base. She made a huge meltdown but convinced herself that she'll be fine surviving on chicken eggs and white rice until then. Her third demand is that I take her to the penis park. My husband is willing to drive us out there 4 hours to appease her, but he's not happy about her demanding tone. She also asked that I take her clubbing, but not only I refused. I told her most clubs have an age limit and she's way over it. She has several other demands that I'll skip over. Today we had a huge argument because my in-laws want to meet her. I've been trying to come up with different excuses, but my in-laws keep insisting. My mom told me that she won't eat anything they cook if we go to their home. And if we go out to eat, she's only going to eat white rice. She's always made unnecessary comments about my husband's family, and she doesn't even know them. She's never even met my husband. She threw a temper tantrum when I said I want her to be on her best behavior and asked her not to embarrass me. How dare I? I'm embarrassed of her? She's done nothing wrong. How could I make her out to be the bad person? She's going on this long and strenuous journey to see her daughter, and her daughter cannot appreciate this sacrifice she's making. She threatened to cancel her flights. I said that would be fine. She didn't like that I reacted that way, so she threw another fit, calling me a bad daughter, said it was my duty to go see her, not the other way around. And she said a lot of out-of-pocket and wild things. She arrives in exactly 1 week. Someone in the comments says, "Why do you want her there? You don't live in the same country. She's being racist, disrespectful, self-centered, unfair, and making unreasonable demands of both you and your husband. You're aware of it, and you still want to entertain her. And if we go by what you told us, meeting your in-laws doesn't seem like a great idea, and it might cause unnecessary crud between you, your husband, and them. You should tell her not to come at this point. If you still want her there, tell her she needs to behave or she's back on the plane. Hold your ground. You're 29, married, not a kid, and you live on the other side of the world." And that's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed the stories I had for you. If you did, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. I will see you all next time.